back to the channel. This is part 2 of a 3-part series on how to cut with a bokken or a bokto. And just to get started with a bokken, just a basic bokken, I suggest the one in the above link. In part 1, which you can find above, we talked about using the basics and the safety of a bokken and also cutting straight, so a straight shomen cut. Now we're going to focus in on why you would want to make a yokomen cut or cut from the side. So now, why wouldn't I just always want to just do a straight overhead cut? Why would I want to do all these cuts from the side or thrusting cuts? Okay, now watch. As he steps back and cuts towards me, if I try to swing in the same position as he's in, then I'm going to get cut. So I need to have an answer to someone is cutting at me, but I don't want to get cut at the same time. Okay, now what he's doing is he's cutting straight towards me, and so obviously I can't go straight towards him and do a straight cut. So as he straight cuts, I have to come from this side, so my body moving forward moves out of the way of his cut. And that does two things. For me to do that, I have to pull my body out of the way. That changes the shape of my angle coming towards him into more of a side cut or a yokomen cut. Hey! Okay, now at full speed. Hey! 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 Now for a good exercise with the yokomen before you start working with your partner is he is straight in front of me, okay? So now I'm going to step offline and attack the weapon, and I'm going to step offline, attack the weapon. He's going to recenter to me so that I can always So a little more advanced exercise is instead of holding it still and swinging and stopping, you're going to move it to the side and the other side. And this stimulates, because when somebody's moving at you full speed, they're moving at you, and you need to compensate for their movement as well as their sword movement. So this will give you the learning memory of how to do that. So next what we're going to do is as he moves back and forth, I'm going to try to stop right at where the weapon is. Notice if it's moving away from me, I'm going to have to extend it a little more. If it's moving towards me, I'm going to have to pull the cut a little more. Okay, now as he comes and cuts down, I'm going to step over, and as you see, when I step over, that's going to turn my hip a little bit, and that's going to have my weapon come from the side. Even though it's coming straight off the top of my head, as it comes away from my head, it's going to angle, and we call this a yokomen. See, it's not straight, it's turned a little bit. So as he cuts, it turns a little bit, and then that's a side strike or a yokomen strike. What I'm going to suggest is start with him cutting into your wrist just like this. And then what I've got to do is I'm going to step over off the line, or this is the line that I want to get off of. So I'm going to step over, and then when I bring my body over, it brings this arm out of the way, and then I just extend straight away from the top of my head as his weapon goes down. Okay, so start again. So I suggest having him put his weapon right on your wrist, and then that tells you the line that you need to get off of, and then you're going to step over. As I turn, it's going to get off the line. Okay, another point that I want to make is I am not trying to come from the side. I'm coming straight off the top of my head, and it's just turning because of my hips turning. I'm not trying to turn the weapon in any way. Okay, the other side is if he's coming and swinging towards the other hand, or my right hand that's forward, not the left, but now he's going to swing towards the right hand. Now I've got to do the same thing. I've got to step over offline, and as he's pushing, I am going to step, and he moves away from it. Okay? So again, from here, as he cuts down, I am going to step over and make a cut from the side. 8! 8! 8! 8! 8! 8! Okay, so let's look at the same principle just from a different angle so you can get a better vantage point. So from here, again, I'm under the weapon. This is the center line that I've got to move off of. So I've got to step over, and then as I extend from this side, then it allows for that weapon to go down. So then he's going to put the weapon back up on this side now. Now this side, the same thing. If I try to move towards him, I'm going to move into the weapon. So what I have to do is I have to move, this hip moves away from his head. 8! 8! 8! 8! 8! 8! 8! So now let's look at the footwork of a yokeman. So I'm going to do a yokeman. First, I'm going to get my feet about even width apart, a little wider than his stance. And as he swings, the first thing I'm going to do is shift to put my weight on this right leg. Then I'm going to move my left leg back, and that puts myself offline of this position of the attack. So again, if I start to the other side, as he attacks, I'm going to shift to this side, and then I'm going to move my foot offline. Okay? The tendency, the mistake that people make is they step too far. They step too far, now you're way too far off the line. And for beginning, that might not be bad. But for the practice, you shift and pull offline. So with the yokeman, I'm going to shift, and then I'm going to step back, yokeman. So he's going to step again. So as I shift over, that doesn't get me all the way offline, and then I bring this leg back, and when I extend my arm, that gets it offline. If you've enjoyed part 1 and part 2 of how to use a bokken with the straight cut and the yokeman cut, part 3, if you click on the link above, will take you to the third part where we show you how to thrust and why you would thrust with a bokto. If you like these videos, go ahead and like the video and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notifications so you'll know when the next video comes out. If you like the series, this 3-part series on how to use a bokto or a bokken, then I highly suggest moving on to something more advanced and moving on to the katana videos. The first one is basic safety of a katana and how to draw the sword. And then the next series of 4 is a series of 4 on how to cut with a katana, which is a little more advanced.